So today we shall discuss about John Donne's poem, The Canonization. Okay. Hope you can see my screen. So John Donne's poem, The Canonization, the title is actually premised on a paradox, as it was seen in the case of ecstasy. Okay, because you know that the kind of canonization is basically a religious term, and John Donne is using the kind of religious term in order to depict the kind of profane love, in a sense, because love for woman is generally taken as a kind of profane activity, okay, that is denounced by the church. But he is using, this is John Donne's very playful utilization. He is using a kind of Catholic term, in a sense, a kind of religious term, to depict the kind of um, profundity of emotion. So that is why the title is a bit uh, ironic, in a sense, and it is also paradoxical. So let's read the first stanza. Mm, Hope you can see the screen. For God's sake, hold your tongue and let me love, or chide my palsy or my gout, my 5 grey hairs or ruined fortune flout. With wealth your state, your mind with arts improve, take you a course, get you a place, observe his honor or his grace, or the king's real or his stamped face, contemplate what you will approve, so you will let me love. So this text begins very dramatically with a kind of admonition to a third person listener. So this third person listener, who is a kind of voyeur, this voyeuristic third person is sometimes seen in John Donne's love poems, who is actually creating a kind of obstruction to their love making. So here it is actually started in a light-hearted way as a kind of riposte to the kind of objections raised by that voyeuristic third person listener. So he's just telling that person, "Je, don't actually cause any hindrance, don't cause any kind of problem into my lovemaking," in a sense. He's saying that for God's sake, hold your tongue and just wait. Someone requested. So for God's sake, hold your tongue and let me love. So here John Donne is saying that look at the way that love has been used. Love is used as a kind of verb. So the kind of love making, in a sense, it is actually hinted at. So don't cause any kind of impediment. As Shakespeare said in sonnet number 116, that let me not accept any kind of impediment to the kind of union of true minds. Similarly, John Donne does not want to accept any kind of encroachment to their lovemaking. So, John Donne is saying to that third person that if you have any objection to my love, you can actually criticize me for my other loopholes or shortcomings. You can chide my palsy, that means paralysis, or my gout, a kind of physical infirmities, in a sense. my five gray hairs, or ruined fortune flout. So these first three suggestions are images of illness and images and shows a kind of process of aging. So if you want to criticize me, censure me, you can do that for my physical infirmities, flaws, and my advancing old age. There is a kind of figure of speech in this phrase. Who can say this? My five gray hairs.
Part for the whole.
Part for the whole
Synecdoche.
age. এটা দুভাবেই করা যায়, সাইনেকডকি করা যায়, and it can also be kind of done as a kind of metonymy, because gray hair symbolizes old age. So if you place it under the category of symbol for the thing symbolized, it can be called metonymy, and it can also be called as synecdoche if you place it under the category of effect for the cause. যে gray hair is the effect, cause is the old age. So both of these interpretations are valid as you actually interpret that why you have chosen it as a metonymy or synecdoche. So my five gray hairs, that means my advancing old age. These are the things that you can talk about. You can criticize me for that. You can raise any objection for my kind of physical infirmities or ruined fortune flout. You can also criticize me for my ruined fortune. Remember that when the poem was published, probably in 1603, when there was King James I at the throne, uh, at that
স্যার বলছি
time,
সিম্বল ফরটা কি বললেন স্যার?
symbol for the thing symbolized, which is one of the categories of metonymy. মেটোনিমির মধ্যে যে বাঘগুলো বলেছিলাম, সিয়াসেন যেটা, সিম্বল ফর দ্য থিং সিম্বলাইজড, ইনস্ট্রুমেন্ট ফর দ্য এজেন্ট, তারপরে অ্যাবস্ট্রাক্ট ফর দ্য কংক্রিট, এরকম ছিল অনেকগুলো। তো তার মধ্যে সিম্বল ফর দ্য থিং সিম্বলাইজডের মধ্যে এটা পড়ছে। ইন দ্যাট ওয়ে ইট ক্যান বি কল্ড অ্যাজ মেটোনিম। I was discussing about the ruined fortune flout. So, what actually led to that kind of disastrous fortune, I would say? What led to that kind of situation? That means when John Donne actually married and moved, John Donne was going through a period of crisis in a sense. Earlier, he was trying to be a kind of diplomat, but he actually married, fell in love, and then married the kind of niece of his boss and moved. And that led to a kind of serious flaw in his actually jobs, because he did not get any settled job for that, and he led a life of penury for a long period of time. And later on, it was only for, these are some biographical references which we can talk about, but which are not, may not be essential in this case. But as he was saying that my fortune is ruined, I had a kind of disastrous fortune. So you can think of such things. That is why I am making a reference to these things. That kind of love affair with and mood that created many complications in his life. He was going through a kind of bad patch in a sense, a life of penury, jobless in a sense. But later, King James I, James the First, took mercy on him and gave him a kind of honorary post. But these are some biographical details. So his kind of departure from a kind of well settled career can be thought of as a kind of background. যে my possibilities perhaps in my life were sometimes ruined. So you can criticize me for that. I actually played a kind of mess with my life in a sense. And because of my lack of seriousness, maybe. So these are the points you can talk about when you are trying to censure me, criticize me, and he is just trying to eke out a kind of space, a private space of love, a space that is totally untouched by, that is totally not kind of say influenced by the kind of dictates of any other person. They don't actually give any injunction on us, don't say what to do and what not to do, in a sense. So he does not want to let anyone pontificate to him. So he is telling that person is a kind of silent listener, in a sense. The whole poem has a kind of dramatic monologue like structure, but here you can think that the speaker is the poet himself. In this way, it is not a typical dramatic monologue, where we find that in a dramatic monologue there is a kind of persona, not the poet himself. Otherwise, a silent listener was present there and the dramaticity was also there. So he is telling that person, with wealth your state, your mind with arts improve. Take you a course, get you a place, observe his honor or his grace, or the king's real or his stamped face, contemplate what you will approve, so you will let me love. The first suggestion is a material suggestion. যে with wealth your state actually improve. এখানে one verb is actually used. So your wealth, your state actually improves with wealth, in a sense that the kind of, it refers to the act of material development. যে if you want a kind of material betterment, then you can think of amassing money and improve your fortune. If you are materialistic in temperament, and if you want to improve your mind, okay, so in that case you should take a course. That means, you know that during the Renaissance time it was thought of that a mortal mind can apprehend the immortal through the kind of study of arts, studia humanitatis, it was called at that time. The humanities as a discipline that emerged, that actually gave focus on the study of different subjects, which would actually improve the mind of people. You can think of Bacon's of Studies, you know, that famous Renaissance essay, where Bacon talks about the curative function of studies. The study of different subjects is actually a kind of good for you, because if you read history, it will make you wise. If you read philosophy, you will be a deep, in a sense. So there was some, if you want to improve your logic, you should start reading a kind of practicing mathematics, in a sense, as Bacon actually suggested. So this was a kind of Renaissance kind of concern. The improvisation concept of, the concept of improvement, in a sense. So if you want a kind of mental improvement, you should study arts. Or if you want a kind of improvement in terms of wealth, then you should engross in a kind of materialistic deals, not in my private world of love. Another thing you can do, you can get you a place, observe his honor or his grace. Who is his? He is obviously the king, King James I, in a sense. You can also become a courtier, that will actually make you earn money if you be a courtier. So you can pay a visit to the royal court, praise the king in its original shape or the kind of stamped face. What is the stamped face? You know that during the kind of Renaissance period, here it was the Jacobean era, as it was 1603. So during that time, the image of the king was embossed on the coins. কয়েনের রাজার মূর্তি রাজার হচ্ছে তোমার মুখ সেটা হচ্ছে স্ট্যাম্প করা থাকতো বা ইম্বস করা থাকতো। দিস ওয়াজ দ্য কাইন্ড অফ নেচার। So you can either watch the real face of the king by actually going to the kind of palace by becoming a courtier, or you can also look at the kind of embossed image of the king on some coins. So here the second suggestion is that means when you are looking at the embossed image of the kind of king on the coins, this is a kind of suggestion that you should become materialistic. You should actually indulge in doing some kind of activity that will make you money in a sense. So oil your own machine in a sense, and don't actually kind of create any kind of disturbance in my private world of love. So contemplate what you will approve, so you will let me love. That is the kind of his inner desire. If you do all other activities, if you criticize for my physical defects, if you want to improve your mind, you can do this, you can do that, you can become a courtier. So if you are engaged in any of these activities, uh, then you are able to actually uh, give me a freedom which I earnestly require.
ভয়েস
so
ভয়েস
so
মুভ করছে স্যার।
ও আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, দেখছি, এক সেকেন্ড একটু হোল্ড করে থাক।
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
Okay, I think I have rejoined in the meeting, and do let me inform actually whether I am better audible in a sense. Is it coming?
ইয়েস স্যার।
I hope you can see the screen also as it was going on.
ইয়েস স্যার।
So as I was saying that if you do all other things, so you are actually letting me that kind of freedom which I earnestly require for lovemaking. Because this is what John Donne wants, a complete freedom in the act of lovemaking. He is a monarch of wit, he is a monarch of love as well. Huh? So in the second stanza, look at the tone also, which actually kind of changes throughout the text. In the second stanza, he is saying that no one is injured because of my act of lovemaking. No one has been in a kind of problem. No one is in a kind of disastrous situation because of my lovemaking. So he is saying with a kind of question, alas, alas, who is injured by my love? My love has not given injury to any person. These are some other hypothetical suggestions that he actually makes. What merchant ships have my ships? What merchant ships have my sighs drowned? Who says my tears have overflowed his ground? When did my coals a forward spring remove? When did the heats which my veins feel add one more to the plaguy fill? So here, these 5 lines in a sense, from merchant ships to the plaguey bill, one can find a kind of satiric dig at the Petrarchan sonnets, because those seduction kind of poems written by Petrarch and the followers of Petrarch, they employed some hyperbolical kind of language. They would say that that my sighs, in a sense, in order to actually prolong, in order to actually exaggerate their kind of melancholy or their actually a kind of dejected mood, they would often employ such kind of stereotypical or hackneyed or commonplace comparisons, that because of separation from you my sighs have actually drowned some merchant ships. John Donne is saying that this did not take place. No merchant ship is actually drowned by my sighs of love. আমার দীর্ঘ নিঃশ্বাসের ফলে কোনো জাহাজ ডুবে যায়নি, in a sense. So there is a kind of humorous kind of suggestion, a kind of comic tone that you can get here, a touch of humor that John Donne actually introduces to these lines. Second suggestion: who says my tears have overflowed his ground? Jay, there might be some sad moments in my love, in my life. There might be some occasions where I actually started crying, but as a result of that, as a result of a kind of inundation, in a sense, no one's ground is actually inundated or overflowed with waters. This is another humorous quip or satirical kind of diatribe, a dig in a sense. Who says my tears have overflowed his ground? So no person's ground is overflowed with my actually tears, with the waters that have come as a result of my tears, in a sense, or crying. Third suggestion is that when did my colds a forward spring remove? Cold means the coldness in love. There are some good moments as well as some kind of moments which is not so called kind of good, in a sense, the cold moments, in a sense. So because of that kind of dejected mood, for example, when my mistress has not accepted my proposal or I am trying my level best to make him accept, so there might be a coldness in the act of lovemaking. But as a result of that, as a result of my melancholic mood, the natural cycle of season has not come to a standstill. That means there might be a winter in my personal life. That means the kind of winter just also stayed in the real world. In real world, winter was followed by spring as part of the natural cycle. So the kind of advent of spring was not actually thwarted or hindered because of my coldness of love. Third suggestion. And in all these suggestions, you can find a kind of clever slap, a kind of ironical kind of gesture at those Petrarchan sonneteers. Next, fourth suggestion is that when did the heats which my veins feel add one more to the plaguey bill? So plaguey bill is a kind of contemporary reference, a topical reference, in a sense. You know that bubonic plague was actually a kind of pandemic at that time. That was a kind of a thing, as a kind of issue, as a result of a large people were dying because of that bubonic plague. And as a result of that, because of such kind of situation, every week a bill of mortality was issued by the government to make a list of the people who were dead as a result of that. So when I at first taught this poem at my flat, so there was no reference to, or that kind of pandemic did not happen, in a sense. But now you can realize after a kind of lapse of so many months that what kind of situation can pandemic create. So the plaguey bill, the kind of, it refers to the bill of mortality that was published every week, that actually counted the number of people who are dead because of this bubonic plague. So John Donne is saying that there might be some coldness in love, there might be some passionate moments as well, the heat of love. So, as a result of some heat of love or warmth of love, no one is actually dead in a sense. যে বিউবনিক প্লেগ হলে তার টেম্পারেচার খুব হাই হয়ে যেত in a sense. So here in this kind of ironic as well as comical kind of comparison, the warmth of passion, it has not actually given rise to the temperatures of other persons, and that is why they might actually die. So add one more to the plague bill. মানে ফর এক্সাম্পল দ্য নাম্বার অফ পিপল যারা অলরেডি হয়তো মারা যাচ্ছিল বিকজ অফ বিউবনিক প্লেগ, তাদের সংখ্যাটা একই রয়ে গেছে বা স্বাভাবিকই রয়ে গেছে, যে তার সাথে অতিরিক্ত কোনো একজন ব্যক্তি যোগ হয়ে যায়নি বিকজ অফ মাই অ্যাক্টিভিটি অফ লাভ মেকিং. So this is a kind of tone of banter. He is actually saying all such thing in a kind of facetious tone, facetious manner. Soldiers find wars, lawyers find out still litigious men, which quarrels move, though she and I do love. So every routine of life remains unaffected by my love making. Soldiers are still fighting. Lawyers find still litigious people. Litigious people means who are so fond of going to the kind of court in a sense, who are so fond of the law, মামলাবাজ লোক যাদেরকে বলে. So lawyers are still getting such litigious persons. So their profession is not hampered because of my love making. Nor are kind of wars have come to a stop. Wars are also going on across the globe in a sense. So every routine of life, every activity of life remains unchanged, unaffected, which quarrels move, though she and I do love. So here you can see the end of uh, the kind of second stanza, and the end of the first stanza was almost similar. So you will let me love. He is trying to get a kind of private space. And the second stanza also says the same thing, that though she and I do love. That means he is trying to get a kind of unrestricted domain for lovemaking. And here, from the third stanza onwards, you can find a kind of change of tone, as you can see. Just a second. So here John Donne is saying, call us what you will, we are made such by love. Call her one, me another fly. We are tapers too, and at our own cost die. And we in us find the eagle and the dove. So here some images are actually introduced by John Donne, the image of fly, the image of eagle and dove in a sense. So we shall look up to this at first. So John Donne is saying that you can call us anything, call us what you will. We are made such by love, because it is under the kind of alchemic power of love that we are actually changed. Our mind is ennobled. And he is saying that call her one, me another fly. You can call us as kind of flies. The image of flies apparently signifies a kind of triviality. You can also think of the fact that flies are attracted to the fire, and they are actually they do actually kill themselves by jumping to the fire. So that kind of suggestion is actually utilized here, that John Donne is saying that you can call us and more and I as flies, who are attracted to the fire and killing themselves. So we are fire too. That means we are tapers too. John Donne বলছেন tapers is a candle, that is the source of fire in a sense. So the fire is within us. And just as, in a sense, just as the flies are attracted to the fire and kill themselves, similarly, we are attracted to the fire of love and kill ourselves. What kind of kill? What kind of death? Here is a kind of pun on this word die, because it was thought during the Renaissance time that sexual intercourse shortens the span of life, that actually delimits the lifespan of a people. So if they are indulged in lovemaking, then their actually days are actually kind of lessened in a sense. Their lifespan is getting shortened. So there might be a problem in a sense, but John Donne is trying to negate such kind of contemporary kind of concerns through his kind of startling images and symbols. He is saying that we die at our own cost, but here death is followed by a rebirth. Death is not the end in itself. This is the suggestion that he makes by taking reference to the myth of Phoenix. But there is another line: we in us find the eagle and the dove. So these are the metaphors of unity, the images of perfection. Eagle symbolize a kind of masculine kind of robustness. Dove is a symbol for actually feminine sweetness. You can think of to his coy mistress, the last stanza. Let us roll all our strength and your sweetness up into one ball. So that ball, the kind of image of
স্যার
platonic
স্যার ডাবটা কি সিম্বল করছে বললেন?
dove হচ্ছে the kind of feminine sweetness. This is symbolized. So here John Donne actually stands for actual eagle, and dove basically symbolizes his wife and Moore, a feminine sweetness in a sense. And these together, eagle and the dove, this binary constitute an image of perfection. Just as that Marvel's lover into his coy mistress said that let us form a ball by that kind of masculine sweetness and that masculine robustness and feminine sweetness. So that ball is a kind of platonic symbol of perfection. The theme of androgyny in a sense. Someone has requested just uh, hmm. So the we in us find the eagle and the dove. So you can think of Look Back in Anger, written long time after. So in Look Back in Anger, you also get the image of bear and squirrel, that kind of image of togetherness in a sense, the image of unity. So we in us actually create a world of self-fulfillment. We are not dependent on any kind of other kind of external conditions, nor are other external parameters, conditions influence our love. We are immune to any kind of change. And there is a kind of suggestion that the kind of death is not an end in itself. Death is followed by a kind of renewal of life. This is suggested by one of the central concepts of this poem. The predominant concept of this poem is contained in the title. The title Canonization is one of the dominant concepts, where the lovers are compared to saint. Second predominant comparison, that is Akin to that concept of sainthood is the image of or the metaphor of phoenix. The phoenix riddle hath more wit by us. We two being one are it, so to one natural thing, both sexes fit, we die and rise the same, and prove mysterious by this love. So, you know that phoenix is a kind of mythological bird that can rise from its own ashes. Remember that phoenix is also a kind of bird which does not have any particular sexed identity. That means it is given a kind of androgynous kind of attribute. It is a sexless bird in a sense, the phoenix. So phoenix is a kind of image of renewal, and the phoenix is also a symbol for perfection also, because as you can think of Plato's concept, that true kind of identity, that kind of theme of androgyny, in which he believes that originally there was no separation between men and women. They were together in a sense, they were composite whole, a kind of ball like image that symbols a kind of perfection. Later on, there was a kind of separation between the two. So, the phoenix myth, though that kind of bird which die and which actually take rise from its own ashes, this is a kind of miracle. This is a kind of miraculous nature of this bird. And we also create that kind of miracle through the act of lovemaking. That our days, in a sense, are not shortened or actually lessened, but we are actually alive, in a sense, to a kind of other world, or a kind of other heaven is actually open to us. And in this way, the central title becomes very important, canonization, because canonization is a process by which any person with a fame of sanctity can be conferred the sainthood by the Catholic Church. But after 1234, Pope Gregory the Ninth made an injunction that if anyone is to be deemed as a kind of saint, they have to, or that person has to, a kind of create a kind of miracle. He have to perform a kind of miracle, otherwise he would not be counted as a saint. This was a kind of rule that Gregory the Seventh actually brought out in 1234. So you must create a miracle. And now Jordan is saying that they are the saint of love, because this is the miracle that they have performed. They don't die in a sense, but they are like the phoenix. They can rise from their ashes in a sense. And this line, so to one neutral thing, is a kind of indication to that. It is a kind of indication to a kind of image of perfection, neutrality of the sexes. It is neither total masculine or feminine, combination of both. So a neutrality of the senses, of the sexes. And look at the last two lines. We die and rise the same and prove mysterious by this love. So under this effect of love, under this benediction of love, you can say that we are the better kind of examples of of kind of myth of renewal. The myth of phoenix is better exemplified by us. So if you want to think of that image of renewal, image of rising from the ashes, you can make a reference to us as well, and we better illustrate this myth of renewal than this mythological sexless bird phoenix can give. And remember that this is another layer of meaning, that phoenix was a dominant image during the Renaissance period of time. Even Queen Elizabeth appropriated the image of phoenix. কারণ ফিনিক্স ইমেজটা যেহেতু ইট ক্যান রাইজ ফ্রম ইটস অ্যাশেস বলা হয়, তো এলিজাবেথকে সেই সময় বিভিন্ন রকম যে ইমেজগুলো আমরা পাই সেখানে তাকে ফিনিক্সের সাথে কম্প্যারিজন করা হয়, বিকজ ইউ নো দ্যাট শি ওয়াজ চাইল্ডলেস অ্যান্ড ইট ওয়াজ থট অফ দ্যাট ইন হার ডেথ kind of survivor in a sense, a successor to the throne would miraculously arise from the fire. So there was lots
স্যার
of,
ফিনিক্স একটা পাখি তো?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ অবশ্যই সেটাই তো বলছি, ইট ইজ আ মিথোলজিক্যাল বার্ড, হ্যাঁ পাখি। এবং এই ফিনিক্স মিথ যেটা আমি বলছিলাম ওয়াজ অ্যাপ্রোপ্রিয়েটেড বাই মেনি পারসন। ইভেন কুইন এলিজাবেথ তাকেও হচ্ছে ফিনিক্স পাখির সাথে কম্প্যারিজন করা হতো ইন আ সেন্স। সেই প্রসঙ্গে বলছিলাম, বাট এখানে অতটা যাওয়ার কোনো প্রশ্নই নেই। এখানে ইউ ক্যান জাস্ট থিঙ্ক ইট ইন আ কাইন্ড অফ সিম্পলিফাইড ম্যানার, দ্যাট হি ওয়ান্টস টু মিন দ্যাট যে ইউ নো অ্যাবাউট দ্য ফিনিক্স রিডল, যে দিস বার্ড ক্যান রাইজ ফ্রম ইটস অ্যাশেস অ্যান্ড it refers to an act of kind of self renewal. Similarly, we can renew ourselves, recharge ourselves. We are not dying by act of lovemaking as the contemporary people would deem at. So this is the mystery of love, this is the miracle of love in a sense. This is the miracle that they have performed, and as a result of that they will be deemed as saints. So this third stanza, you can see there is a kind of change of tone. The first two stanzas had a tone of mockery, a tone of banter, a bantering tone. But now the third stanza is actually a hymn to the mystery of love, isn't it? The tone of that kind of mockery is now replaced by a tone of a kind of serious gesture. And the fourth stanza that continues that theme of the a kind of seriousness. Here John Donne is saying that we can die by it if not live by love. And if unfit for tombs and hearts, our legend be, it will be fit for words. And if no piece of chronicle we prove, we shall build in sonnets pretty rooms. And as well, a well-wrought urn becomes the greatest ashes as half-acre tombs. And by these hymns all shall approve us canonized for love. Wonderful stanza this is, and here he is saying that we can live by love. That means this is the kind of nature of love, যে if they cannot sacrifice themselves for the love, they can live their life, the kind of limited time of their life, for the act of love making in a sense. So there might be an inadequacy, but he and his beloved just wanted to live this life for the act of love making, though they cannot sacrifice themselves in a sense on the altar of love. And he is saying that if unfit for tombs and hearts, our legend be, যে our legend, the kind of our story of courtship may not be important, or may not be as grandiloquent as some famous lovers are, and may not be our bodies interned in grandiloquent tombs and hearts, that means graves, may not be our legend. So in future our love story, our kind of story of courtship may not be actually displayed by actually erection or a kind of building of a kind of tombs or hearts in honor of them, like Taj Mahal in a sense, but it will be a fit for words. That means Our love story is a fitting subject for our sonnets, for my sonnets. This is what he enshrines. These sonnets, songs and sonnets, the name of the collection, that sonnet actually, that sequence, sonnet sequence in a sense, actually enshrine the kind of higher love that John Donne and his beloved had. So may not be our love story part of that kind of great kind of celebration uh, of tombs and hearts, but it will be a kind of fitting subject for my love poetry. And if no piece of chronicle we prove, we shall build in sonnets pretty rooms. ভেরি ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট এই জায়গাটা। আর এটা শর্ট কোশ্চেনের জন্য মনে রাখবে, যেটা যদি বলে যে উই শ্যাল বিল্ড ইন হোয়াট, এটা একবার নেটে এসেছিল, যদিও নেট পরীক্ষা বহু বছর আগে এখানটায় ড্যাশ দিয়েছিল, উই শ্যাল বিল্ড ইন ড্যাশ প্রেটি রুমস, সো ইট ইজ সনেটস। আচ্ছা, এখানে বলছে যে ইফ নো পিস অফ ক্রনিকেল উই প্রুভ, উই শ্যাল বিল্ড ইন সনেটস প্রেটি রুমস। This is another the kind of notion of actually fulfillment and a kind of satisfaction in a sense. So it began as a kind of admonition to the voyeur listener. So now that mood is changed. Here he is addressing a hymn to the miraculous and mysterious kind of lovers. And in this way, that if no piece of chronicle means what? Chronicle means history. So we may not be legendary figures, we may not be kind of worthy of tombs and memorials, but we will be worthy of poetry. And chronicles may not be written on us, but sonnets and songs will be written on us and our love. So here you can find a kind of transition of the two lovers into two saints, into the category of two saints. And as well wrote on becomes the greatest ashes, as well wrote on becomes the greatest ashes as half-acre tombs. So here is a comparison between a kind of macrocosm and microcosm in a sense. Half-acre tombs, in a sense, a kind of very large tract of land. Okay. And a well-wrought urn, that means a kind of small place in terms of size. So what is bigger? Which one is bigger? Obviously the kind of half-acre tombs. But John Donne is saying, but actually saying, we may not find a place in the tomb stretching for half-acre land, but we, like a well-wrought urn, will suit the greatest ashes. And by these hymns, in a sense, we shall be a kind of confirmed by the world as canonized lovers, as he is saying, that this well-wrought urn is equal to the half-acre tombs. What is well-wrought urn? Here well-wrought urn actually refers to these sonnets. You may not see a kind of monuments, large monuments that actually showcase, celebrate our love, but you can see these kinds of songs and sonnets. You can read them for later kind of years, and when you shall read, you can find a kind of testimony to our pure, fresh, a kind of pristine love. So their kind of sonnets are as powerful as any other monuments as one can create. And by these hymns, so look at the word hymn, one religious song in a sense. By these hymns all shall approve us canonized for love. So people will take us for saints will actually think us, regard us as saints. And here comes the last stanza, and thus invoke us. So look at the way here the whole paragraph is within a part of inverted comma. So this is the kind of prayer that people would make in future when they shall die, when they shall be canonized, when they shall be converted into saints. And in future, other lovers will actually pray to these demigods. So they are, in a sense, turned into deities. And in future, when people will worship them, they will say such things in order to actually ask from there a kind of favor. জন ডান যেন নিজেই সেটা লিখে যাচ্ছেন যে লোকে তাকে যখন পরে পুজো করবে ইন সেন্স প্রেয়ার জানাবে, প্রার্থনা জানাবে, তখন সেই মন্ত্রটা কি হবে? দিস উইল বি দ্য মন্ত্রা। হ্যাঁ, সো ইউ হুম রেভারেন্ট লাভ মেড ওয়ান অ্যানাদার্স হার্মিটেজ, you to whom love was peace that now is rage, who did the whole world's soul contract and drove into the glasses of our eyes. So much such mirrors and such spies, they did all to you epitomize, countries, towns, courts, beg from above a pattern of your love. So people would actually worship us by saying this religious mantra. You were actually a kind of foil in a sense to each other. The kind of reverent love made each one of you a kind of perfect kind of fit for the other. You are those who have been made by the reverent love the kind of anchorage of one another. To you, love was peace that now is rage. So this is a kind of contrast. যে to them, love was a kind of peaceful affair, but now one can find a kind of raging frustration that stands aloof from the entire point, as opposed to that kind of peace in which the lovers were actually engrossed in when they were alive. So to them, the version of love was one of purity, was one of peace, but now one can find that love is full of raging frustrations. Who did the whole world's soul contract and drove into the glasses of your eyes. So again, that kind of reference, as you can see in the last class on kind of ecstasy, the kind of image of reflection in each other's eyes. But as you have seen in Good Morrow, my face in thine, that kind of third stanza, first line. So here, that kind of reference again is given. J, what is the meaning of this line? J, you can see that you made yourself self-sufficient in knowledge of the world. Why? Because everything in this world is to be found in each of you, for you are each a world, in a sense. The whole world is getting contracted into your two separate bodies. The kind of metaphor that John Donne introduces is in Good Morrow too, the hemisphere kind of model. The whole world soul is actually contracted, is actually exist in a kind of in diminution in the two bodies of these persons, John Donne and Moore, into which that everything that one can find in the real world could be found on them. So the whole kind of macrocosmic world was as if compressed into the microcosmic world of John Donne and Moore. So made such mirrors and such spies that They did all to you epitomize countries, towns, courts, beg from above a pattern of your love. So, in each other's eyes, you actually drive the countries, towns, and courts. That means you have gained the world in each other. That is now a more meaningful world. And since you are the saints of love, ask God to give a pattern of your love so that other people can follow. So perhaps John Donne and Annie Moore provided a kind of archetypical pattern of love which will be mimicked by other persons in future. So as if it is a kind of model of perfection which later on will be followed by some other lovers in future. So countries, towns, courts bake from above a pattern of your love. These two persons
স্যার
provided us a kind of image of archetypical model of perfection that will be later on followed, mimicked, and a kind of represented by other person in future. So that's all. And Mita was asking something. Now ask the
হ্যাঁ
question.
স্যার স্যার বলছি ওই মাইক্রোকসমিক ওয়ার্ল্ড আর ম্যাক্রোকসমিক ওয়ার্ল্ডটা বললেন